He said, very simply, we need to, and this was the collective group, so I said he. The collective group said HR has really two big jobs. It is to find the best talent and help us retain the best talent. That's how we're going to drive the organizations, the businesses that we run. Finding talent and keeping that talent. So I'm going to spend the next couple of minutes really talking about focusing really on the retention side, how to retain talent, because that's what we all do. That's what companies like Learn.com helps us do. That's what this is about. Empowerment is about just that, helping us retain this talent. But I'd be remiss if I didn't spend time to first talk about finding the talent, because obviously you can't retain things that you don't have. So starting out on retaining talent, we spend a lot of time recruiting. And I don't know how many people, show of hands here, are involved in recruitment. Not just who owns recruitment. Okay. We don't do it well. We have spent a lot of time finding bodies in many of our organizations. You know, people believe that finding talent is easy. Of course, you run an ad in the newspaper, people show up, you knock away the people who are not interested because you're going to have thousands of people outside your door looking for a job. They'll all be eminently qualified and you can pick. This is American Idol, isn't it? It's not. And frankly, maybe it is, because most of the people who try it for American Idol are bad. And guess what? Most of the people that come into our door aren't that good. So the challenge for you is to find the next Carrie Underwood, the next Fantasia. You know, that's what our job is to do, is to find this talent. And you don't do it just haphazardly. It's about strategic sourcing, because it makes a difference for the organizations that we service. I was the other day meeting with a woman who told me that turnover at her organization was 180%. 180% annualized. And this was not a retail company. This was something like what we all do every day. And I was like, my gosh, how do you do it? And she was saying her CEO was incredibly frustrated. They had actually worked the metrics and they determined that they spend $18,000 on an individual in the first 6 months in training and development and onboarding and all of that good stuff. And she said, it's just money going out of the door. My CEO is incredibly, incredibly frustrated by all of this and they think I'm not doing my job. And I said, stop. Are you engaged in what we call sort of strategic talent sourcing? Or are you just engaging in recruitment? And maybe it's semantics at the end of the day, and I hate when people get off on, words, but at the end of the day, there's something to be said for finding people in a very strategic, deliberate, and focused way. Because for the rest of you who are in the room who are training and development professionals, if you don't do that part right, it's like garbage in, garbage out. They're making it really, really hard for those folks who are responsible for retaining these people and developing these people if you don't bring them into the organization in the right way. So we spent a lot of time talking with this woman. She said, one of our biggest problems is, we can't get people to stay. And I said, have you thought about where you're recruiting people from? I mean, think about just little basic things. And some of this stuff is fairly intuitive and it's not very difficult to figure out. If your average recruit is coming from 75 miles away, no wonder people are wowed by the opportunity to come work for you. And then 2 weeks after being stuck in traffic for 2 hours a day, they realize this job is not exactly what I wanted. That's why people leave. The other thing that really, I think, stuck most with me is that they found that training and orientation was where they lost most of their people. Orientation, something as simple, and this really applies to most of the people in this room. You think orientation, whatever, get all the people, corral them into a room, we'll show them this horrible video, we'll give them horrible food, and we'll tell them you should be happy to work here. What we don't understand is from the beginning, you are pitching people. There's so many decision points along the way. When you think about the employment cycle, when you think about talent acquisition, you bring people into a dungeon room, sit them in a corner, give them a piece of paper, you don't treat them well coming in. Well, people aren't really, it's not a sexy proposition. But then when you bring them into the organization, if you're like me, you hate training. I hate orientation. You tell me 2 weeks in a room, I'd rather go to prison for 2 weeks than sit in a corporate orientation for 2 weeks. But a lot of the folks told him that no one's paying attention to that. Training and development people aren't really focused on that. They have a message that they want to give you, and whether or not you get it in the way that you receive it and enjoy it doesn't really matter. They just want to do the checklist. Did you sign off? Did you go through the EEOC? Did you fill out your I-9 forms? And I say EEOC, EEO1 forms. Did you go through all of that? And then quickly let me throw a video up and tell you, in some cases we don't even have a video, that you don't know the story about the organization. You're not immediately from day one capturing their hearts and their minds. I don't know if any of you are here from Disney, but years ago I went to the Disney Institute and I kind of went through their HR cycle wanting to study it. Let me tell you, from the day you apply at Disney, whether or not it's the perfect company for everyone, but from the day you come in that door, they let you know that this is an experience. You know, it's the pixie dust. They want to sell you on their company. And there's a lot to be said for that on the talent acquisition side. So you have to be very deliberate, very focused, and you need to sell. I come from entertainment company backgrounds, and we know that these people are talent. They're stars. And especially if you want to find the stars, you have to pitch them that way. Long gone are the days when you could, it was really sort of a buyer's market. We, corporate America, being the buyers. This is now a seller's market. These people fully understand their value. They understand, no longer do you work forever to get your gold watch. People are way over that. And not just this new generation, hell, every generation. They understand it. Our parents have been laid off after 28 years with the company, 2 years away from retirement. They get this. This is not about that anymore. We have to pitch talent at every level. And so without belaboring the point, one of the most important things that we can do as a group collectively is to spend a lot of time with our talent acquisition people, helping them really understand what it is they're selling. What's the culture of the organization? Who are you bringing people into this organization? What people are you bringing into this organization, and who will fit? One of the exercises that I've tried just recently on one of my own companies is we've sort of engaged someone to come in and really interview in a deep level, many of our most successful employees, to understand not only what traits they have, sort of personality traits and professional backgrounds, experiences, what makes them work, sort of profiling them. What are the profiles of successful people, but what are also the profiles from a cultural standpoint? Who fits here? Now, the lawyer in me knows that fit used to be a code for ways to discriminate against people, so we told people not to really focus on fit. But fit is really, really, really important, because you can take someone who is brilliant, but who will not fit in your culture. And like a cancer, the spread can be very, very, negative and damn near fatal to your organization if you put too many people together who don't fit into the culture. So it's key. I've said time and time again that on the talent acquisition side that we spend a lot of time, significant amounts of time, understanding what is the product you're selling. You're selling your organization, and you need to understand it, and only pitch the people who will fit because of their background and experiences, as well as their cultural fit and their place in the organization. So that's sort of number one. Then let's go to, so you got the people. Let's assume talent acquisition is done perfectly. You brought the right people in the door, and they're gleaming and smiling, and you brought them in, you trained them, you onboarded them, and yes, onboarding is significant. A lot of companies I know used to poo-poo onboarding, and no, that's when you lose people. You capture their hearts and minds really early, because if you don't, you will lose them, and they begin to check out. Many companies right now, especially companies that I work for, after someone leaves a job, someone who we really like, we begin the search, but before we make an offer to their replacement, we go back to the person who's gone back and we say, hey, how were your first 90 days at your old employer? Everything that they sold you, was it right? And we bring people back constantly. I love it. We have gaps in employment. People, oh, you left for 90 days. It was a vacation, a sabbatical. It was a joke. Come back. Because the market is like that. So the market is changing significantly for us. We go back and recruit our stars who make a mistake by going to the competitor. And that's happening more and more. So now, you got the folks. Now let's talk about retention. And that's really sort of the crux of what I want to talk about, is how to transform your talent into productive, high-performing assets. When Gianni and I were in the hall, we were really talking about how sad it is, the product, and I think most of you will agree, that we're getting from our secondary school systems. The people who are coming into the workplace now is troubling. I mean, and forget the generation Y and X and how they think about life and work-life balance and all of that. I'm not getting into that because things change. So funny how we say things have changed. My mother said it, I'll say it, my little brother will say it when he's 40. Things don't really change in many ways. What's happening, though, is that these folks don't come in with the basic skills to be able to function in these environments. I don't know if you all are having that experience, but we are absolutely amazed at the number of non-thinkers who come into our workplace. And it's not to be critical of them, but it is.